First contact fallacy. Supreme Counselor Xirax of the Galactic Consortium flicked his gill membranes in obvious disdain as the holographic display showed yet another image of Earth's dominant species. The bipedal creatures looked so fragile, pink skin without scales or natural armor, no claws to speak of, and a complete absence of venom sacs or electrical discharge organs. And these are the beings that have captured the attention of our xenobiologists. Xirax asked, 6 golden eyes blinking in sequence to indicate his skepticism. They appear barely capable of surviving their own planetary environment, let alone achieving interstellar significance. Science Director Thela adjusted her atmospheric processing unit. As a methane breather from the Proxima system, she required technological assistance to function in the oxygen-rich council chambers. With respect, Supreme Counselor, appearances can be misleading. Our preliminary observations suggest these humans possess remarkable adaptive capabilities. Xirax waved a scaled appendage dismissively. The same could be said of most Level 2 civilizations. What makes them worthy of consortium resources? Their technological progression curve, Thela responded, manipulating the display to show a graph. Most species follow a predictable development pattern over millennia. Humans have compressed this timeline exponentially, from primitive combustion engines to rudimentary space travel in less than a single galactic cycle. Military Overseer Crandor, a hulking crystalline entity from the Orion arm, shifted forward. Light refracted through his silicon-based body as he studied the data. Accelerated development often indicates external interference. Perhaps one of our rivals has been providing technological assistance contrary to non-intervention protocols. We found no evidence of that, Thela said. More concerning is their remarkable inventiveness under pressure. When faced with resource shortages or environmental challenges, they don't adapt themselves biologically as most species would. Instead, they create technology to bend their environment to their will. Xirax flattened his gill membranes against his neck, a sign of growing impatience. Very well. Sanction a first contact diplomatic mission. Class 3 protocols, minimal delegation. Let's see if these humans are truly as exceptional as your data suggests, or merely another primitive species that will require several millennia of oversight before they're ready for consortium membership. 3 lunar cycles later, Ambassador Lorix found herself standing in a human structure called the United Nations, addressing representatives from their planet's various tribes. As a water-world diplomat, accustomed to the pressure depths of Aquilon Prime, she found the environment uncomfortably dry, but her environmental suit compensated adequately. People of Earth, she began, the consortium's universal translator, converting her ultrasonic speech patterns into human languages. I bring greetings from the Galactic Consortium, a union of over 700 sentient species dedicated to peaceful cooperation and technological advancement. The human reaction was not what she expected. Rather than the usual awe or fear that accompanied first contact scenarios, she detected curiosity, analytical interest, and something else, a peculiar light in their eyes that her species psychologists would later identify as excitement. One human stepped forward, a female with dark skin and white head fur. Ambassador Lorix, I am Secretary General Amara Okafor. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth. We have many questions, as I'm sure you can imagine. What followed was not the expected sequence of fawning gratitude for consortium attention. Instead, the humans immediately launched into practical inquiries about propulsion technology, energy generation, and medical advancements. Their questions were surprisingly sophisticated, demonstrating an understanding of physics that belied their primitive appearance. Most disconcerting was their immediate grasp of the political implications. This consortium, a male human from a region called Russia, asked, it functions as a collective governance body. What rights would Earth maintain as a member? The diplomatic mission extended from the planned 3 days to 3 weeks. Ambassador Lorix found herself increasingly fascinated by human adaptability. They lived in every environment their planet offered, From frozen wastelands to scorching deserts, from oxygen-thin mountain peaks to deep oceanic research stations. How do you survive in such diverse conditions without evolutionary specialization? She asked a human scientist named Dr. Chen during a tour of an Antarctic research facility. The human laughed. Another curious behavior. We don't adapt our bodies to the environment. We adapt the environment to our bodies. This facility maintains temperatures that would kill us if we were directly exposed. Our clothing, our technology, our tools, they're all extensions of ourselves. Extensions, Lorix repeated, the concept striking her as profound. While most species evolved biological solutions to environmental challenges over millions of years, humans bypassed this process entirely through artificial means. The true revelation came during what the humans called a mining disaster. A massive underground collapse trapped 67 humans in a facility extracting something called rare earth elements. The consortium delegation observed in fascination as humans from around the planet mobilized resources. They have no chance of survival, military overseer Crandor commented as they watched the rescue efforts. The oxygen levels will be depleted long before excavation equipment can reach them. Yet the humans refused to accept this logical conclusion. They worked tirelessly, developing new drilling techniques on the spot, creating makeshift oxygen delivery systems, and somehow maintaining communication with those trapped below. It's irrational, Science Director Thiele observed. The resources being expended far exceed the economic value of 67 individuals. Against all probability, the humans succeeded. 59 of the trapped miners emerged alive, greeted by tears and embraces from their fellow humans. This makes no evolutionary sense, Lorix said to Secretary General Okafor afterward. Why expend such resources to save so few? The human's expression changed subtly. Because to us, every life has value beyond economic calculation. Because next time, it could be any of us trapped down there. We protect our own. When the diplomatic mission returned to the consortium Central Worlds, their report created immediate controversy. These humans are anomalous, Ambassador Lorix testified before the Supreme Council. They possess the physical vulnerability of prey species, yet display the territorial aggression of apex predators. They show both the collective behavior of hive minds and the fierce individuality of solitary hunters. Xerax's gill membranes fluttered with agitation. Your assessment, Ambassador. They should not be underestimated, Lorix replied carefully. Their biological limitations have driven them to develop technological solutions at an unprecedented rate. More concerning is their social cohesion under threat. When one human is endangered, they all respond as though personally threatened. Military Overseer Crandor's crystalline form darkened, his species equivalent of a frown. Are you suggesting these primitive organisms pose a security risk to the consortium? I am suggesting, Lorix chose her words carefully, that our traditional species assessment metrics may be inadequate for humans. They don't fit our existing categories. In the cycles that followed, the consortium established a permanent observation post in Earth's solar system. As humans ventured further into space, establishing colonies on their moon and neighboring planet, the consortium watched with growing unease. Supreme Counselor Xerax, initially dismissive, found himself increasingly troubled by reports of human advancement. They've compressed a millennium of technical development into decades, he noted during a closed council session. Their adaptability makes them unpredictable. Perhaps, suggested a counselor from the arthropod worlds, we should consider quarantine protocols. Limit their expansion until we better understand their potential. The discussion might have continued indefinitely had fate not intervened. On the outer rim of consortium space, a resource-rich system had long been disputed between the consortium and the expansionist Viridian Empire. When humans established an independent mining operation in the contested zone, the Viridians decided to make an example of them. It would prove to be a catastrophic miscalculation. The Awakening Storm. Grand Admiral Vex of the Viridian Empire studied the holographic display of the human mining outpost, with contempt evident in all four of his eyes. The settlement was pathetically vulnerable. Minimal defensive capabilities, outdated shield technology, and a population of barely 3,000. "This will be a simple demonstration," he told his command staff. "We'll neutralize their defenses, extract the population for labor assignment, and claim the system's resources. The consortium will protest, of course, but they'll do nothing substantial." They never do. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Zell, seemed less certain. Intelligence reports indicate humans may react unpredictably to aggression. Vex's dorsal spines flushed blue with amusement. They're isolated and outnumbered. What could they possibly do? The Viridian assault began with precision typical of their military doctrine. A squadron of warships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the mining colony. Communications were jammed, automated defenses neutralized, and landing craft deployed to secure the population. Then everything went wrong. Rather than surrendering when faced with overwhelming force, the human miners activated emergency protocols no one had anticipated. They collapsed key resource tunnels, converted mining lasers into improvised weapons, and used industrial explosives with devastating effectiveness against the Viridian landing parties. Impossible. Vex hissed as casualty reports flooded in. They're miners, not soldiers. That distinction may not exist for humans, Zell observed grimly. Intelligence suggests all humans receive basic combat training regardless of occupation. Even as the Viridians adjusted their tactics, a distress signal had already reached Earth. The human response defied all military logic. Rather than appealing to the consortium for diplomatic intervention, the expected response from a Level 2 civilization, they launched an immediate counteroffensive. Every available vessel was mobilized. Military ships, civilian transports, even private craft hastily retrofitted with weapons. Within days, a Galactic armada was en route to the mining colony, while diplomatic channels remained conspicuously silent. In the consortium's central chambers, alarms spread rapidly. The humans are responding with disproportionate force. Military Overseer Crandor reported. They've deployed their entire space-capable fleet. Xerax's gill membranes pulsed rapidly. Have they requested consortium assistance? That's the concerning part, Ambassador Lorix interjected. They haven't. No appeals for diplomatic intervention, no requests for military support. They're acting entirely independently. At the contested mining colony, the Viridian occupation faced growing resistance. The human miners had retreated into an extensive tunnel network, emerging for hit-and-run attacks that killed dozens of Viridian troops daily. Admiral Vex found his superior forces mired in a grinding conflict they hadn't prepared for. These aren't the actions of civilians, he raged as another outpost went silent. They fight like they've been planning for this scenario for years. The truth, which the Viridians would only discover too late, was both simpler and more terrifying. Humans hadn't been planning for this specific scenario. They had been imagining it for centuries through what they called fiction. Countless simulated conflicts in their entertainment and literature that had prepared them psychologically for this moment. When the human counteroffensive arrived, it didn't target the Viridian fleet as expected. Instead, they executed a maneuver no military doctrine would have predicted. They bypassed the occupied colony entirely and struck directly at Viridian supply lines. They've abandoned their people, Vex declared, momentarily relieved. A tactical error we can exploit. Zell wasn't convinced. Sir, intercepted communications suggest. The colonists knew this was the plan. They're deliberately drawing our forces into a fixed position. The human strategy became clear as their main fleet split into smaller, faster groups, systematically isolating Viridian battle groups and overwhelming them with swarm tactics that sacrificed conventional efficiency for unpredictable effectiveness. They used mining ships as kamikaze vessels, civilian transports as troop carriers, and improvised weapons that violated standard combat protocols. Across consortium space, analysis of the human response triggered unprecedented alarm. They're not fighting like a military overseer, Crandor observed. They're fighting like an entire species under existential threat. Because that's how they perceive it, Lorix explained. Our psychological models missed a crucial aspect of human nature. They don't distinguish between threats to some of their kind and threats to all of their kind. Attack one human settlement, you're effectively attacking their entire species. The Viridian Empire, facing catastrophic losses and the potential for human strikes against their core worlds, sued for peace after just 14 days of conflict. The terms they agreed to stunned the consortium. Full withdrawal from the disputed system, reparations to the human colonists, and a non-aggression pact that effectively ceded control of 3 additional resource-rich systems to human influence. Supreme Counselor Zirax convened an emergency session of the consortium's highest authorities. How did we miscalculate so severely? He demanded. Science Director Thiela's analysis was sobering. We evaluated humans based on their biology, their apparent technological level, and their limited interstellar presence. We failed to account for their unique psychological profile, particularly their capacity for immediate all-out mobilization and their inability to accept defeat. It's their biological weakness that makes them dangerous, Ambassador Lorix added. Species with natural defenses evolve toward specialized roles and strategies. Humans had only their minds, their tools, and each other. So they developed a civilization where everyone can become anything. A miner can become a soldier, a civilian vessel can become a warship, a peaceful colony can become a fortress. In the cycles that followed, the consortium was forced to fundamentally reassess its understanding of interspecies relations. The human response to the Viridian incursion had revealed a species that defied conventional categorization. Technologically developing, but martially mature, physically vulnerable, but strategically overwhelming, individually weak, but collectively unstoppable. When consortium representatives formally invited Earth to join as a full member rather than a probationary protectorate, the human delegation surprised them once again. We appreciate the offer, Secretary General Okafor stated diplomatically, but we have concerns about certain consortium non-intervention protocols. We've reviewed the records of conflicts where your peacekeeping forces observed rather than intervened. This is incompatible with our values. The unspoken message was clear. Humans would not stand by when the weak were threatened, even when standing by was the rational choice. In a private session afterward, Zirax confronted Lorix with the implications. They're refusing membership unless we change policies maintained for 12,000 cycles. The arrogance is unprecedented. Not arrogance, Lorix corrected. Consistency. They apply the same protective instinct to all sentient life that they apply to their own kind. It's admirable, in its way. It's dangerous, Crandor interjected. If they continue expanding at their current rate, applying their interventionist philosophy. The 3 consortium leaders contemplated the future in silence. The humans, physically frail, evolutionarily unremarkable, technologically adolescent, had revealed themselves to be something unprecedented in the galactic community, a species whose greatest strengths emerged directly from their greatest weaknesses. We assumed physical vulnerability indicated civilization vulnerability, Thiela finally said. Instead, it created a species that refuses to accept limitations, refuses to surrender, and refuses to abandon their own, or it seems, anyone else they decide to protect. In the years that followed, the human phrase, "Don't judge a book by its cover," became common in consortium diplomatic circles, a reminder that appearances could be not just deceiving, but dangerously so. The soft, vulnerable-looking bipeds from an unremarkable blue planet were reshaping the stars not through overwhelming biological advantage, but through the power of adaptation, cooperation, and an absolutely relentless refusal to accept defeat. The universe would never be the same.